Hi, and welcome back to the Middling Along podcast. My guest today is Bethan Thomas. She is one half of Hot Tea Mama, a company that she launched with her partner Kate Achilles in 2017. Welcome along, Bethan.
Thanks for having me, Emma. It's lovely to talk to you.
So, before we delve into your kind of setting up the business, tell me a bit more about your background, because it says I think on the website that you're the first non-Chinese person to get a degree in tea science from, I'm going to probably pronounce this wrong, University of Agriculture and Forestry in Fujian?
Fujian. Yeah. So I am. I do have a very specific tea background. So when I left university, originally I actually moved to Shanghai, not tea related. I was working in marketing, but I fell in love with Chinese tea and just everybody drinking whole leaf tea, from bus drivers and builders to in the
Not a
office.
tea bag in sight.
Not a tea bag in sight, no milk, nothing. Yeah, I ended up falling in love with China as well. And I did a master's in Chinese studies so that I could learn to read and write Chinese, and then got myself a job at a British company, but focused in China. And London. So I spent many years between Hong Kong and then the southeast coast of China, Japan and Taiwan, buying tea, absolutely loving it. And yes, before I decided I was going to sort of properly settle down with my partner and we wanted to have children, I asked permission to go back to China and study tea science out there, which I'd found at the university in Fujian. And I absolutely loved it. So I have a lot of kind of knowledge, both from my buying career, but also, studying into the benefits of tea, the biochemistry, how best to brew and make different types of tea. And have now, ended up setting up my own tea business, focusing on using some of that knowledge to benefit women, hopefully.
And what was the crux point, the sort of decision to go ahead and set up your own company?
Yeah, it was entirely Kate's fault. So
She's not here to defend herself, but
she's not. But yeah, she had the original idea for the business because she had children earlier than me, and she had two in the space of a year. Oof. So she was on a very restricted diet. Wow. She's a big coffee drinker. Yeah, she's extremely sociable and loves, going out and having a glass of wine and dinner with people. And you kind of suddenly realize that you can't actually do everything exactly as you were. So she started asking me a lot of questions about teas that could help her. She had bad morning sickness, and was there anything that could replace the coffee to try and make her feel a bit better within the restrictions of pregnancy? And then breastfeeding, when she was a mum, just being exhausted, tea kind of becomes a very good friend. And she said
as long
to me,
as you can drink it before it turns
as long
cold.
as you can go, before it turns cold, exactly. But yeah, she sort of said, well, why is nobody making tea specifically for this market? And I didn't know. I think it's mainly because it's considered sort of niche compared to creating a tea that anybody can drink. Yeah. And we decided, originally that we would set up Hot Tea Mama, and we were very much focused on pregnancy and motherhood at that time. So coming from our own experience, we created 6 teas and went kind of from there, organically growing them. We've got a lovely community on Instagram who have kind of come with us over the last 4.5, almost 5 years. And since then, you kind of suddenly realize when you stop having kids, my period came back after breastfeeding, and it was really painful and bad and much heavier than it was before. And actually, there are certain herbs and teas that have been used for millennia to support women with menstruation. And then we entered our kind of early 40s, and lots of friends were starting to go through perimenopause, and again asked us about teas that could help with that. So we've ended up extending our range to kind of cover life, basically. But anybody, anyone,
there's a cup of tea for everyone.
Anyone who's affected by periods. And we now sit with kind of 8 teas as a result. And yeah, very happy. I mean, I was talking to someone the other day. My partner works in public health in developing countries,
Mhm.
and he's away at the moment. And I often feel bad because he's got such a noble kind of career helping people. And I was like, oh, you know, essentially, we're just flogging tea, but we are flogging very like tasty, supportive teas that at really difficult times of life, actually, a cup of tea can be a huge support and the
Well,
right
it's our knee-jerk
blend.
reaction, isn't it, to any crisis? Let's put the kettle on.
Exactly, yeah, and if you can put the kettle on and have something that hopefully is not only gonna psychologically help you, but physiologically support you as well, I'm really proud, and we get lovely messages from people saying, you know, they're having an absolutely awful time, but having the tea is helping them and making them feel better, and that is kind of wonderful. That's what we want the tea to be doing.
And, so the tea that you've specifically focused on kind of perimenopause,
Yeah.
this is, am I get this right, raspberry leaf,
Yes.
ginseng,
Yeah,
ginkgo
so
biloba,
it's a
and
blend.
valerian root? Yeah.
Basically, every single ingredient we've kind of picked to try and help with the most common kind of issues that people face. And you know, it's not in any way kind of a drug or a medicine, but hopefully there's lots of small scale research and traditional use that it can help. So yeah, the ingredients kind of range from green tea, which has got lots of great links to helping with bone health and
Oh,
also
really?
speeding up metabolism. Yeah, it's
Wow.
all, you know, relatively early stage in large scale human
Hmm.
trials, but yeah, it's believed to hopefully help improve bone health, and that is research mainly in the Far East into osteoporosis, and using green tea as part of a holistic diet rather than black tea or
Hmm. Oh,
coffee, to
fascinating.
support that. Yeah. And again, also there's research showing that it can hopefully help with metabolism and weight gain, which so many, yeah, women face through midlife. Ginseng, which you mentioned, and ginkgo biloba, both are linked in studies to kind of cognitive health, and improving brain fog and kind of anxiety. Valerian root in there is very specifically for anxiety. Lots of fantastic research into how, yeah, valerian can support reducing stress, anxiety, also helping sleep, hopefully.
Hmm.
There's sage and liquorice in there, which I selected because they have good links to helping with hot flushes. So, just a natural way to try and support your body if you're going through big temperature changes. We do
Hmm.
recommend having the tea iced because hot drinks
Right.
aren't going to help you if you're in that situation. But having a kind of jug of cold tea on hand when you need it with those ingredients in can hopefully
So you can
really
have, you
help.
can use it either way. You can have it hot, or
You
you
totally
can.
can. Yeah, you
Okay.
totally can. I think anybody who isn't suffering badly from hot flushes, but maybe is going through more kind of stress, anxiety, mood,
Hmm.
sleep issues, hot is great and will kind of increase your oxytocin level just having a nice hot cup of tea. But if you're having hot flashes, then having it cold is best. So yeah, the ingredients are all kind of targeted. There's good research sort of there, but it's not going to replace something like HRT. We see it as kind of whatever path you choose to go down through midlife. It's sort of part of a toolkit rather
Yeah.
than a solution of sorts, but it can be really helpful and soothing.
And do you recommend, is there a limit on how many sort of cups of that you would
Cups to have a day.
either need to have, or that you would not want to have more than, I don't know, 4 or 5 in a day? Is there a kind of a
Yeah,
sweet spot?
yeah, we always kind of refer back to NHS guidance around pregnancy. Obviously, you're not pregnant at this point, but I think they're very good. And again, because caffeine can also affect people who are having hot flushes a lot.
Yeah.
Um, Again, the pregnancy guidelines are something I quote to anybody going through perimenopause, because sticking to 300 milligrams of caffeine per day, and enjoying the caffeine that you do have, not restricting yourself too much, is great, but you're not going to get to a level that would hopefully impact your symptoms. And it's the same with a lot of herbal and sort of specialty teas, that when you're pregnant, the NHS says don't have more than 4 cups a day. purely because there isn't enough large-scale research with humans, particularly pregnant, to show there wouldn't be a negative impact. And I think for anybody, that's a good amount to kind of stick to. And the good thing is that if you were to drink 3 cups a day regularly, like with anything that you eat or consume, the benefits build up in your body over time. So particularly with a tea, you can get a real benefit from having a cold cup of iced tea if you're suffering from a hot flash. But if you do that regularly through your day, hopefully the sage and the licorice are going to kind of build up and just reduce those symptoms. So you can get an immediate kind of refreshing benefit versus a build up over time. So yeah, we always say 3 to 4 cups a day max is what.
Yeah. And if you were having coffee as well, then you would reduce that
Yeah,
even
exactly. So
further.
yeah, the Take a Pause has approximately kind of 30 to 40 milligrams per cup, so it's quite low in caffeine. And you can definitely still have a cup of coffee if you're really monitoring your caffeine levels. Instant coffee has less caffeine in it than whole bean coffee.
I'm a coffee snob. I'm sorry. I
I
can't.
know, it's
I hate
like
instant
it's
coffee
like,
with a
no, I
passion.
want a proper one. But you do get a lot more caffeine in a filter. So yeah, some people swap it out just if they want kind of a wake up. But yeah, you can still have a filter and 2 cups of tea a day, but I just wouldn't have 4 at that
Yeah.
point.
And you've got some nice little bundles on your website as well, where you're pairing the Take a Pause with the night owl tea. So
Night
that's like
owl,
sort of sleepy
yeah.
tea type if you're having problems sleeping.
Absolutely. And I think particularly kind of stress and anxiety can be have such a huge impact on women. Yeah, something like the night owl, it's got valerian in it as well, which, yeah, one study showed that valerian was more effective than a sedative in
Wow.
helping people sleep. But everyone reacts differently to herbs, so it's not a guarantee, but it does have really strong anxiolytic benefits. So the other ingredients in there are whole chamomile flowers, lavender. They're both very high in linalool, which is really calming and soothing. And it's why you get a lot of, lavender pillow sprays and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. But studies
That's
show
good.
that if you drink the lavender as an infusion, you actually get more of the benefits than if you just inhale the kind of aromatic compounds. So
Okay.
yeah, chamomile and lavender both have this very kind of soothing benefit. Lime flowers have been used for millennia in kind of Middle Eastern countries to again ease anxiety and aid sleep. And hopefully, yeah, you can take a pause during the day and night owl in the evening.
Yeah, because presumably that's got no caffeine in it.
No caffeine at all. Yeah. So if you're avoiding that, it's completely caffeine free. They're really soothing because I think so often just going through big hormonal changes is really emotionally draining. And again, a cup of tea that is delicious and soothing as you kind of drink it psychologically is going to hopefully give you some benefit alongside the physiological effects that the actual leaves can have as
Mm.
well.
And
Mm.
for anyone who's listening and kind of maybe kind of slightly eye rolling and kind of thinking, well, how much difference is a cup of tea going to make anyway? What sort of feedback have you had from people in terms of the difference that it's made for people who've tried it since
Yeah.
you launched it?
So I think everybody's different. So I would never say it's a guarantee. And
Yeah.
obviously everybody's menopause is different. Some people will be so adversely affected,
Yeah.
that the tea probably isn't going to make much of a difference. Whereas other people with milder symptoms, it might make a really big difference. So we can never ever sort of guarantee it. But we sort of did 3 months of testing with people, particularly because our base at the time we developed the blend kind of a year and a
Mm-hmm.
half, 2 years ago, was very pregnancy focused. We got a lot of aunts and mums or big
Love it. The
sisters.
mum army.
Exactly, who were able to test it for us before we kind of packed it up. So we did it as a loose leaf, and we got really, really positive feedback. We wouldn't have gone ahead with it had we not, because I particularly as a female owned and run sort of business, you don't want to ever feel like you're fobbing something off that isn't going to have a benefit. So
Yeah.
we went out and we had 50 women test it, and the vast majority saw positive benefits. But it does not wipe out, symptoms.
No.
They're still experiencing night sweats, but having it there to drink, they felt it benefited them, and particularly in mood. I think a lot of the ingredients, there are many countries where the ingredients are classed as herbal medicines, not herbs that you can drink. So we can't actually sell Take a Pause in some countries because we'd have to apply for medical licenses. So not in the UK. But certain ingredients are shown in studies to really, really help. So the ginkgo biloba is a really good example of that.
Yeah, because you can buy that sort of, in
Tablet
tablet
form,
form over
and again,
yeah.
sage. A lot of people will buy sage in supplement form, and I think actually with tea, there's quite a benefit from the ritual of having a tea, making a tea, taking time for yourself versus a supplement, where
Yeah.
you can actually get, particularly around anxiety and emotion, a bigger benefit from having it in tea form than tablet.
And also, if you're like me, you totally forget to take your supplements every day and then wonder why they haven't made any
I
difference.
have to have them because I drink so much tea. I have all of mine by the kettle because that's the only way I remember to
Oh,
take them.
mine are even in the little pill box where I've
Oh,
like counted them
really?
out and still, like get to the end of the day and like, oh, didn't take any. But that's entirely on me.
But I think being very upfront and honest, there will definitely be some people who might have it and say, oh, hardly made
Yeah.
a difference. There'll be some people it makes an enormous difference to. We just hope it, from what we know, it makes a difference to the majority.
Yeah. So like you say, it's part of a kind of a toolkit of things that people can try, and especially if they don't want to go down the HRT route for whatever reason, then
I mean, I think if you only relied on a cup of tea to help you, it probably isn't going to. But holistically looking, I think there's enough out there to show that even if you go down the HRT route, looking at your diet and exercise and all these kind of lifestyle changes we can make with nutrition and movement are really, really important. And we see the teas as being a part of that. Just like in pregnancy, we'd never say we have a tea for like birth preparation, raspberry leaf, which is used in the third trimester to help women. It alone, there might be someone who's very lucky, whose uterine muscles react extremely strongly, and it's the one thing that makes a difference. But the truth is, it's probably if you've prepared, you've stayed fit and healthy, you've done research and educated yourself, plus you've had the tea. It's not a miracle cure by any means.
And now, have you got plans to extend out your range further? Are you testing any products at the moment?
New ones. Well, I haven't. We've just developed some gift sets. So sort of looking at packaging things up and putting them into nicer packaging that can go into retailers. We've recently done. And then a friend of mine yesterday was saying her yoga instructor gets UTIs really regularly. And was there a tea that could link to that? And I was like, oh, it's the first time I've been triggered to think again of like, what could
Because
we
I
look
think
at?
actually sometimes in sort of perimenopause, it's quite common to get sort of repeat UTIs as well.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And to be fair, I was saying to her, I was like, well, actually, the night owl is really good. And we also have our Over the Moon, which is our kind of period focused tea, has got chamomile and spearmint, which are two herbs that have a little bit of research done into them because there's very limited research around UTIs and herbs. But they're both got antimicrobial qualities. They both increase urination. They make you wee more often. And as a result, they're probably best. And Over the Moon has both of them. Obviously, Night Owl has the chamomile. But we also put dandelion root in Over the Moon, which is big in Chinese medicine around kind of liver detoxification, and it flushes out the liver, basically. But again, it can help with bloating, and it can also help you go to the toilet more often as a result. And it's funny, you kind of go, oh, well, there are actually some benefits in the teas we've already got.
yeah.
So kids for tea for kids is something I've thought about as
Okay,
well. But
yeah.
again,
My 11-year-old's just getting into tea. He's quite into his fruit tea, which is very
yeah, well,
sweet.
my kids are, they're exposed to it a lot, but they love it, and it's a lot healthier, obviously, than squash. But there are great companies out there already kind of producing fruit teas that are suitable. So I wanted to use something called butterfly pea flower,
Ooh.
which it's amazing. When you make it, it makes the liquid bright blue. And if you add lemon, it goes pink.
Oh, like you can make the, unicorn spaghetti or whatever it
Yes.
is
Yeah,
with,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Exactly. So I was like, oh, how brilliant. And then I found out that unfortunately, legislatively, it's classed as a supplement, not a tea, which means that if you wanted to pack it into a tea, you're meant to apply for novel food registration. It's very dull, but basically
Oh,
costs hundreds of thousands of
oh,
pounds,
rubbish. So
and
we
we
all
can't do it.
deprived colour changing tea.
Yeah, so the thing is, you can get it from certain companies in the UK, and they're just ignoring the legislation. But that's fine because they're sort of making it themselves, so they can choose to do that. And if they get in trouble, that's fine.
Right.
Whereas we use a packer, and as you know, they're not willing to break the law, which is fair enough. Even though it's like, feels like a slightly strict law for what's required, but it is what
Yeah.
it is.
And how have you, just sort of generally, how have you found it, launching your own business? A very steep learning curve. What kind of advice, good tips that you've picked up along the way? Anything that you'd go back and do differently?
So I don't think I do anything differently because we like I'm tempting fate. We're yet to have any sort of like absolutely awful mistakes, and you always learn from whatever you go through. So far, touch wood, so good. But yeah, I think my major advice, at least from a personal perspective, is that I would never have run the business without a partner. So I was pregnant when we were first developing the teas and on maternity leave when we launched. So Kate really kind of picked
Mm.
things up in setup. And it's all a bit of a blur to me. I'm like, how did we establish with Companies House and do all the kind of things that are required? She just took the load. And then she moved, she's Australian originally. We met at university here, but she then moved back to Australia a couple of years ago. And I've then, taken it on much
Mm.
more, and this year she's come back into the business much more strongly, setting up our office in Australia, which is really exciting.
Okay, I was going to say, do
um,
you sell into Australia as well?
yeah, we do now, yeah, since last year, yeah, which is great. But I think having somebody in it, if I'd have been doing it on my own, it would have failed a long time ago, I think. And I think Kate would probably say the exact
Mm.
same
Having someone
thing.
else to bounce ideas off and
Absolutely,
kind of
and yeah,
pull
just
you back from the brink. Like, it's going to be
yeah,
okay.
and I'm a very worst case scenario person. So I often, if something happens, I'll go to have a bad tendency to go to a very negative place. Whereas
Mm.
Kate is an extremely positive person. So having somebody that
Balance
balances
out.
you is really positive too. And I think just not getting upset by slow growth, because I don't feel like we've been particularly slow to get to where we are. But sometimes when you compare yourself to others, particularly via social media, where a lot of small businesses are able to,
Yeah.
get exposure, you can think, oh gosh, why are we not selling that amount or doing X amount? And it took us 5 years to get to the point where we've got a good solid income and we can employ people. Everyone in the business is part-time and flexible except me, but we have a really lovely strong team of women pushing everything forward. But it took us 4 years to be able to do that. I didn't take a salary
Mm.
until kind of 3.5 years ago. I work part-time to support my family but keep the business growing,
Yeah.
and you don't always see that. But
Yeah. You
actually
don't
being
see
happy,
all the hard work and the kind of,
yeah,
yeah, you
and just
only present a small
be,
part of that
yeah, you're just like,
journey.
oh look, we're doing really well. And actually, for 2 years you've been working between 8 p.m. and 11 p.m. and exhausted. But that slow, kind of steady, solid growth, I think, is something we should celebrate a little bit more. because often you just see a company that you've never heard of and suddenly they're in Tesco's and you're like, oh, why couldn't we have done that? And it's like, well, most people can't.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah, so no, definitely for me, it's being in a partnership has been amazing, and not being too hard on ourselves
Yeah. Have you
long
got
term.
kind of ambitions to go sort of, I don't know, do you sell sort of to the US, or I mean, I keep seeing all these articles and stats about, the size of the menopause
Menopause
market. Is it a
market, yeah.
billion women or something, a billion people by 2025?
Yeah, so we haven't people buy from America on our website, which is great, but we don't actively kind of go
Mm.
after it because again, I get into all the legislation, but there's all sorts of
Yeah.
legislative requirements for labeling and things like that. So at the moment, we're really focused on Australia and the UK. We are going to launch into a big retailer quite soon. And to be honest, I think the only reason we've been able to do that is because we've had the menopause
Mm.
and the menstruation products as well. Because I think we're part
That sort
of,
of differentiates you from a lot of the other kind of people in
yeah,
this field.
exactly. And we're one of the founding members of Gen M,
Mhm.
which is a group of companies who are working towards getting more visibility to the menopause and understanding. Even Boots are part of it, and Holland and Barrett and Next. And our last session, we were talking a lot about just signage in shops, like as a menopausal woman, which is an enormous number of women who are looking for support. You can't always find the products that you need in one place. So I know retailers are really starting to take that seriously.
Ah, interesting.
And
We should
yeah,
look
Gen
forward to
M.
a whole, menopause section,
Exactly.
hopefully
Yeah.
with
So
some nice comfy chairs we can
yes,
sit down.
yeah. And a mix of products, and because it is such a broad array of things that can help women. And at the moment, I remember looking on a supermarket website, and the only things you could see were incontinence pads,
Oh, joy.
um, and like a million supplements, but it was not clear what any. They all were
Yeah.
basically the same thing packed up into sort of different boxes, and that's really not acceptable because I think there might be pelvic floor trainers or exercise equipment or protein, certain
Yeah.
nutritious
Yeah.
foods, essential oils, all different things, RT included, that really should cater to the market more. But retailers are definitely realizing that, and I think
Yeah. They're waking up to the spending power as well of that kind
yeah,
of demographic, right? Who control
totally.
the budget.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those sort of good but slightly depressing things that it probably is. There are companies that have been, catering to this market for a long time just because they are mainly female founded and have seen or been through the menopause. Whereas now it's kind of like people just realizing they can make quite a lot of money
Yeah.
if they cater to it. But if that benefits women, then that's brilliant. I just hope it doesn't end up with a huge amount of non-recyclable plastic incontinence pads in the
Mm.
menopause section. I hope.
I'm assuming now that you said that your tea bags can go in the compost. They don't have any
Yes.
plastic in them.
No, they don't. They're 100%
Brilliant.
biodegradable. Yeah, we use the bags themselves are made from cornstarch originally, so they
Ah,
can go in your food bin, and the actual bag that we put them in inside the box is derived from wood pulp, so that goes in the food bin as well. So
brilliant.
yeah, um, yeah, I'm not a hypocrite.
Oh, Bethan, so thank you so much. So a full disclosure,
Yes.
I haven't tried your tea yet, but
You
I'm
should get
gonna
you
go
some.
online and order some, and I will
Oh.
report back.
Oh, well, yeah, I hope you love it, and, yeah, no no judgment from my side. I just like talking about it.
Well, congratulations on your, I know you can't talk about it, but, on your imminent news, and,
Thanks.
yeah, should make it a lot easier for many of us to get hold of your products, so
Yes, I hope so.
that'll be fantastic. Yeah,
Thanks, Emma.
thanks for your time. You've been listening to the Middling Along podcast. Do remember to subscribe to be notified when our next episode is live. And why not visit the blog at www.middlingalong.com to sign up to my newsletter as well. I do hope you enjoyed listening today. If you did, I'd be really grateful if you would consider leaving a short review, as that helps people find the podcast and helps get it noticed. Hope you can join us next time. Goodbye for now.